My partner is constantly telling me that I should have cosmetic surgery just to fix some of the supposed flaws in my body that he doesn't like. And I'm now so frustrated and disgusted by his comments over the past 2 years that I now seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years now, and I really get frustrated about things that he says to me. He's been very casually talking about my appearance and telling me aspects I should fix, including things like my weight and my face. I get fed up with him and show my annoyance, and he gets upset that I get upset. Now, for some background, my boyfriend and I are both Korean, but he's a born and raised Korean, while I grew up in the US and only came back here as an adult. So there's definitely a cultural difference. He has been pretty insecure about his own appearance for a while now. He wants to bulk up like those gym bros on Instagram and constantly asks what I think about his body and if there's any difference. I see him regularly, maybe about once a week, and I tell him I can't tell a difference, but he still asks pretty much every time I see him. I also don't make any comments about his appearance, unless it's to say that he has hard muscles or has a cute little belly. I am pretty body neutral about myself, but I'm still pretty confident about my appearance. He has been casually fat shaming me for about 2 years now, as I've gained about 10 pounds since we first started dating, and he keeps making comments about how I should work harder to lose weight. Now, I do want to slim down, so I've started going back to the gym, but I also have polycystic ovary syndrome, which makes it harder for me to lose weight, which he is now aware of, by the way, and yet he still makes comments. He has also said how I should get a nose job because I have a beak-like nose, meaning that I have a slight bump on my nose. And honestly, I have no idea what he's talking about, since I honestly just don't see it. He's also been half-jokingly telling me to stop smiling because I have deepening smile lines. Yesterday, he kept saying I should get a procedure that would melt the fat on my chin so that I would have a slimmer face. Now, here's the thing. I don't care what people do regarding cosmetic procedures. I've gotten some things done and I want to do some other things. And my boyfriend has gotten a few things himself as well, and I don't shame him or tell him not to do it. However, he actively tells me things I should change, and it really annoys me. We had an argument about this about a month ago, and I told him he has to stop criticizing me. And he said that he would, but it's the same thing again. I wanted to break up with him back then because it seemed like he didn't know that the things he was saying were absolutely messed up, and he just wanted to supposedly help. But when he says that he will stop, it's all just the same thing again. And now I really think I should end it. But considering his age and how long we've been together and even agreeing on getting married together, I'm honestly afraid of breaking up, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I first want to start off by saying that I'm pretty sure like plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery in general is really popular in Korea. Like, I could be wrong, so please let me know in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure it's not nearly as taboo as it might be in other countries. But in my opinion, regardless of how open a country or culture is about cosmetic surgery, I think it's incredibly disrespectful for one partner to look at the other partner and be like, yeah, you should smile less because you're getting smile lines. By the way, you're fat. Like, seriously, what is happening right now? That is such a gross thing to say to somebody, especially your significant other. Like, what are you thinking? I cannot imagine going up to somebody that I love and describing to them all the things about their face and body that I don't like, and then saying that they should fix those things with surgery. Like, what is happening right now? You really shouldn't say that to somebody that you love. Because honestly, if I was with a partner who was constantly putting me down based on my looks and telling me to get plastic surgery to fix these supposed flaws in my body, I would then be telling them to take a hike. There's no way I would put up with that for a second. And I'm honestly amazed that the original poster has put up with this for 2 years. That is crazy to me, and there's no reason you should be talked to like that. So in my opinion, this is not a good sign, and it's honestly a really big red flag, because it shows to me that your partner doesn't love you for exactly who you are, but they would rather have you look exactly how they like, just to try and appease to what they think is attractive in their partner. So truly, your partner is an absolute jerk. They're talking to you so poorly, and that is honestly so unfair. And hopefully this behavior can be changed sooner than later. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled mom gets me fired from my daycare job after she complains that I was too hard on her son who was bullying another child. And I'm honestly so blown away by her entitlement, as well as the spineless people that I work for that cave to her demands. Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, I'm a manager for a before and after school childcare program in my local public school district. The company that I work for is privately owned, and it sort of rents out out the space in the schools. I've just passed my 7th year working here. I started out when I was 15, and I've always really liked it, mainly because the school that I've been working at is the school that I went to as a kid, and it's within close walking distance. Working at that specific school is one of the main reasons that I've worked here for so long. When I became the manager, it was literally just something that was forced upon me because there was no one else to fill that role. I have always been really good at saving, and I've never asked for a raise before. I spent my own money buying toys and supplies for the site that the higher-ups either didn't want to get or just simply didn't know what to get. I've been shortchanged on support staff for my site for the 2nd straight year, as they don't want to pay a competing starting wage with other nearby businesses. But whatever, working with children from kindergarten all the way up until 5th grade takes a lot out of you, but you do it all for them. I've always really liked my job, but the past couple of days are making me change my mind. So there I was, opening up and understaffed, with 2 staff out on vacation, 1 not showing, and 2 others coming nearly 30 minutes after school gets out because they're both high schoolers and they have to commute, drop off siblings, and whatever. Shortly after school gets out, I usually take the kids to the playground. It's one of the largest playgrounds in the district, despite being one of the smallest schools. So I am practically solo mentoring 45 kids because 1 staff has to stand at the entrance to the playground, and then a massive hill and the equipment get in the way. Then I hear a lot of yelling that one of the 1st grade girls is crying. When I get over there, the 1st grader is under some stairs crying, and I start trying to ask some questions. The 1st grader in question has some mobility issues and requires a walker to get around, and had multiple surgeries over the summer to help out. It turns out that a new kid in the program this year, a 3rd grade boy, had pushed her down, kept pushing her down, pinned her to the ground, and grabbed her neck. When I asked the 3rd grader why he did this, he said, "I don't know." And when I asked if there was a reason why he did this, he just said no. In response, I had him apologize to the 1st grader and walk 3 laps around the blacktop. And of course, I wrote up a behavior report for him to give to his parents. It was all pretty normal. That is, until I get a text from my boss if I could come into the company office to have a little chat. Apparently, the mom of the 3rd grader had called my boss and the principal of the school and had a multi-hour conversation about how I was biased and unfair to her kid. She demanded that I be removed from the site, and my boss for some reason immediately caved and said that I can pick the school that I can co-manage. So I'm essentially being demoted, told that I have to spend a lot more on commuting, be moved without advance warning, and cause the site that I have spent so much effort on have no manager for the horrible crime of doing my job. And I'm just so blown away by the entitlement of this mom as well as the ignorance of my boss. Wow, that is incredibly insane to me. They seriously sided with this 3rd grade bully who was picking on a girl who had mobility issues. She uses a walker, for crying out loud. And the stupid little brat even admitted to doing it in the first place. Like, how is this even up for discussion? The kid is guilty. He absolutely did it. And if anything, he should be banned from the program altogether. Like, seriously, let me tell you something. I cannot stand when management caves like this. I've worked jobs like this before where management just doesn't have a backbone when it comes to confrontation. They cave and they're like, okay, we'll do whatever you want, when in reality they should have defended their only employee making that place actually work. Like, seriously, this is not the fault of the original poster. They were literally just doing their job and protecting this 1st grader from this bully. I know if I was in your shoes, I would be very upset about this situation. And I would even go as far as saying, you know what, I might just find a new job. Because you do not deserve this in the slightest. Because these people literally took away something you worked so hard on. And in my opinion, they do not deserve your work ethic as well as your dedication to creating a safe environment. An entitled couple demand that everybody who shows up to their wedding pays over $2,000 just to be there. And I've never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So I first want to start off by saying that all of the names in this story have been changed. So a friend of mine by the name of Jack was invited to a wedding, and this was the wedding of Sophia and Jeff in the United Kingdom. Jack is good friends with Jeff and has known him for a long time. The bride, Sophia, is from the USA, and Jack RSVP'd to the wedding and was absolutely delighted that his girlfriend had been invited too, even though she didn't really know the couple. A few months later, Jack received an email that stated, "Thank you so much for reserving a spot at the wedding, and thank you for helping us have the wedding of our dreams." At the bottom of the email, Jack saw a link that said, "Click here for payment." Now, he assumed that it was a link to the honeymoon fund and just went about his day. A few days later, he thought that he would just have a look to see what the link was, and it then took him through to a payment page that requested just shy of $2,000 for attendance at the wedding. He assumed this must be a scam, so he called the wedding venue to let them know. The venue then told him the following: "Sophia and Jeff, thank you for your contribution to enable them to have their dream wedding." And this little bit of information was obviously only given to them after they had reserved their spot at this wedding. Jack was astounded, but because he cares about his friend, he decided to empty his entire savings to attend the wedding. But in hindsight, realized the invite of his partner was probably not as generous as he originally realized. Jack then felt that because he spent so much money to attend, he would happily take advantage of the free food and the booze and get the most expensive stuff possible. Now cut to the wedding, and guess what? The drinks were not included. Jack and his partner had a couple of drinks and the bill was about $30. At the end of the wedding, when Jack was checking out, he went to pay for his bar bill. The bill was the $30 plus nearly $200 extra dollars. He was then informed by the venue that the bride and groom had requested every guest be charged this amount because this was going to be a tip for the venue. Now, it's important to note that this is in the United Kingdom, where tipping the venue is not a thing that really happens, nor just charging guests for attendance for that matter. But I mean, honestly, where would that happen in the first place at all? Jack had no money left after spending his savings for the wedding, so he literally had to negotiate a lower tip amount with the venue. After the wedding, Jack checked the cost of the venue and calculated that the cost had been spread amongst the guests, but not the bride and groom. So they had basically got a free wedding out of all of this. Not only did the bride and groom pass the ridiculous amount of money required just to have this venue in the first place over onto the guests in attendance, but after everybody had already reserved a spot at the wedding, essentially putting the venue above basically everybody else, but then they passed the cost of the tip onto the guests that attended. And they did this without telling any of them. They literally charged this on checkout. I've honestly never heard of anything so entitled in my life, and after reading some comments from Americans, as well as some comments from people from the United Kingdom, I basically am confirmed that nobody actually does this, except for someone who is incredibly entitled. Yeah, there's no way I'm paying $2,000 to show up to somebody's wedding. First off, I understand why people would be like, okay, you gotta pay to show up. You're spending a lot of money on a wedding venue, so I totally understand to some degree why you would do that, but to make it $2,000 just to show up, that is insane to me. You need to cut off maybe 2 of those zeros just to make that even reasonable. Like me personally, if I was getting married, I would not charge any money for people to show up. That's just me personally in my opinion. But if you do want to charge people to show up, $2,000 is ridiculous. And then on top of that, you have to add this sneaky stuff in where you're basically like, yeah, you're gonna have to pay for a tip as well. And by the way, that tip is $200. Like, no, that's not happening at all. I'm gonna pay for the $30 for drinks and then I'm gonna leave. And I dare you to make me pay the $200 for a tip. Like, no way. So yeah, these people were absolutely super entitled. They were clearly just trying to squeeze everybody for money, and you can bet there's no way I would ever show up to a wedding if they really think they're gonna make me pay $2,000 just to be there. Am I the jerk for turning down my stepdad's offer to walk me down the aisle, despite the fact that I have every intention of doing that alone? Here's what happened. So to start things out, I'm a 27-year-old female, and I have chosen to walk down the aisle alone on my wedding day. The decision was made for 2 reasons. My dad passed away when I was 7 years old, and he would be my number 1 choice if he were alive, but he's not. And secondly, my mom has made it perfectly clear that she would find it disrespectful to my stepdad if she walked me down the aisle, so she would not do it. Given that both my parents are out, and I don't want to ask my paternal grandparents to do too much, as my grandma and I are already sharing a special dance, with all things considered, walking alone is what I feel the most comfortable doing. Now, I could ask my stepdad, and even when I contemplated my decision, I knew he would want to do it, but it would make me sad to have him walk me down the aisle instead of my dad, if I'm being completely honest. I think my stepdad is a good man, and he has tried his very best to be a dad for me, but I didn't want a dad when I lost mine. I wanted my dad. Nobody else was ever going to be able to fill that role in my heart. I asked my mom and stepdad if they would like to do a joint toast, or 2 separate ones, and whether they would like to walk down the aisle and dance to specific songs. While discussing this, my stepdad asked who I would be walking with, and I told him that I was going to be walking alone. He offered to do it, and I said it was a lovely offer, but I would walk alone. He pressed me on why, and I said it felt like the best option. He said it would mean the world to him if he could do it. If just once he could feel like he's a real dad, and not just second place to my dad. I told him I understand, but it was just not an option on the table. He said he was already being shamed by having to watch me dance with my grandma, when he thinks that it should be a father-daughter type of dance. But to have everyone watch me walk alone when they know I have a stepdad is going to send a very big message. age. I know people will ask about details on our relationship and other stuff, but I met my stepdad when I was 9 years old, and he married my mom when I was 10. He offered to adopt me and give me his last name, and I turned him down 5 times in the 8 years I lived with them. He was married before my mom, and he lost his wife and unborn baby in an accident, and he was also made sterile by the same accident. He always longed to be a dad. We got along well, but our relationship was always more to him than it was to me. Where he sees a daughter and wants a daughter, I see a good man and someone who is a great spouse to my mom and is very good to me, but he does not fill the father role he wants to emotionally for me. Physically he did, but emotionally I never felt like he was my dad, and everyone in our lives is aware that I feel as though I have one dad and my stepdad is just my stepdad. My mom and stepdad are not paying or contributing to the wedding in any way. My fiance and I both have savings, and we're putting those into the wedding, though our wedding will be slightly smaller as we want to prioritize other things. My mom and stepdad say that I'm being rude and heartless for turning down the offer. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, first and foremost, this is your wedding. You can decide whatever you want to do with it. So if you want to say, hey, I'm going to walk down the aisle by myself, then guess what? That's exactly what you're going to do. And the worst part about it is that your stepdad is making this all about him. He's trying to twist this in some kind of way where it makes it seem like it's all about him and that this is some kind of attack on his character or something like that. But he needs to understand that you lost your dad when you were 7 years old and your mom remarried very quickly. Like seriously, I can only imagine how hard that had to have been as a kid. And sure, he really was there for you physically as a dad, father figure type thing, but he isn't your real dad. And honestly, I totally understand where you're coming from. So with all things considered and all the things that you're weighing on at the moment, I don't think you're the jerk here. I think you're just trying to do what's best for you at the moment, and it's really unfortunate that your mom and your stepdad are trying to derail what you want to do. My boyfriend doesn't want to go traveling with any of my family, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend doesn't want to travel with my family. Long story short, my boyfriend works as a contractor, so unlike me, he doesn't get paid time off. It is September now, and my mother presented an idea for my brother and his girlfriend, as well as my boyfriend and I, to go on a family trip for a week to Mexico in the new year. My mom wanted to offer this as a Christmas present to all of us. She is doing well financially and is the type of person who just wants to give to other people. I asked my boyfriend once I got home if he was interested in this, and I got an instant no. He said his reasoning is that he already takes a week off at Christmas time, which is an unpaid week off by the way, and cannot take another week off in the new year in January. So I told my mom this, and she said that we could do the trip later into the year at a time that worked best for him, as she was flexible. I told him this and he still said no. I know being an independent employee is very hard, and it has no vacation pay. We live together, and I asked if perhaps I could pay our rent and get the groceries on the month that we go on the trip. I make pretty good money, and it wouldn't be a stress on me to do that, just so he could come along. He still said no and got defensive, and said he can't afford to do it. He said he didn't feel comfortable with me paying for his stuff, like the rent and half of the groceries, and he still got super defensive. I asked if there was any way he could save up for the trip, since it could be quite a few months in advance, and he said no, because his summer was a low season with his work, and he is playing catch up right now. Anyways, I got to a point where I had to offer solutions, but I didn't want to push forward more, because I didn't want to come off as pressuring him into doing something that he didn't want to do. But I am really disappointed he isn't willing to make it work. He's done a small weekend getaway with my family once before, so I don't think he has a problem with them, but I can't help but to think he doesn't want to go. It's also a totally free vacation, and I don't see why he wouldn't want to go, as it's such a generous opportunity. Anyways, I told my mother that it was a hard no for absolutely any time that we could go. He simply wouldn't come. And when she heard this, she was really offended and very hurt. She offered to change it to any date, and even offered to pay for our groceries or even help us with rent if it helped us go. I told him that I'm definitely going to come, but that I just can't get him to budge. She accepted it, but I can tell she is thrown off by his instant no for a gift that she wanted to give him. So has anyone gone through this before? A part of me also suspects that because he hasn't done a lot of traveling before, traveling might make him anxious, and that there's more to it than just this. But I am disappointed, because I've always thought having a partner to travel with, including with my family, would be really nice. I also am worried it's come across as rude to my mother, and I feel bad as if I'm the person in the middle. I don't want to talk to him about it any further, because I could tell my persistence was already coming off as being pushy, and I don't don't want to start tension over this. My mother feels that it's odd and rude that he is unwilling to do it at any point during 2024. I'll also add that my boyfriend is polite to my family and does see them when he needs to. There isn't any kind of tension with him. He is a good partner, and I'm just frustrated because one of our biggest struggles is that I love to travel and we can never afford to. So I was excited because I saw this trip as a chance for us to travel without the burden of the cost of the trip in general. What should I do? Honestly, it kind of sounds like the original poster is being very pushy. Like seriously, it doesn't sound like your boyfriend wants to go on this vacation. Sure, everything's paid for, but that obviously is not part of the equation. He just doesn't want to go, and I can completely understand where he's coming from. He is self-employed. Taking a week off and then feeling indebted to you and your family for paying for his stuff can come off honestly as really demeaning. Like I get it, you want a boyfriend who wants to travel, but your boyfriend doesn't have vacation time. And sure, you're paying for his hotel and all this other stuff, and you're trying to like make up for lost wages and stuff like that, but based on his reaction, he really just doesn't want to do it. Sure, you can be bummed out, but also you need to respect his decision. Like for context, both of these people are in their 30s, and it seems like the original poster just keeps going back to their mom to try and justify what's happening. Like you don't have to do that. You can just say, sorry, he's not gonna go, and then maybe still go on vacation with them. There's also the other side of this, where your boyfriend's gonna feel like the third wheel on this vacation. Like he is literally just gonna be a tag along on whatever your family is doing. Meanwhile, he could have been at home making money. Like I totally get what's going on here. Now don't get me wrong, I totally understand that he can schedule things properly, and there's no reason he couldn't take a week off of some kind, especially with all the accommodations you and your family are willing to make. But in my opinion, I think it's very inappropriate to be so pushy, as well as to explain everything that he says to your in-laws. I mean, at that point, I can totally understand why he's getting defensive. I know if my girlfriend was sharing my money issues with her parents, I would probably be very upset and probably be a little bit offended that she's sharing that with everybody. Like seriously, that's gotta be private. Just as much as you would not want that to happen to you, you can bet that your boyfriend definitely did not want that happening to him. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Do you think the original poster has a point? Or do you think the boyfriend is well within his rights to say, no, I don't want to go on this vacation? Leave a comment down below. We would love to see what you have to say. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Jerk, check out Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked in the description.